Faye. All right, we're about ready to start here. All right, it's 9 a.m. Good morning, everybody. Here we are in our third day, actually, of the conference. Hope everybody had a good evening and are ready for a full day today. We'll be starting this morning here with Gisele Terry, who's going to be speaking on the astrological markers for mental and emotional illness. And this is part 2. If you have not yet heard part 1, you're going to want to go back and listen to that after, sometime either today or this evening or something, because it'll help make more sense of everything she's going to be sharing today. This will go till about 10:15. Then we'll take a 45-minute break. Then we'll come back at 11 o'clock, and that'll be from 11 to 12:15. We'll have Faye Cochran, who will be speaking on minor planets and asteroids in vibrational astrology. And this will be very interesting to hear Faye and what she has to bring in that. I'm sure it'll be very exciting and new. Then we'll take a lunch break from 12:15 to 1:45, and then be back here again at 1:45 to 3 with Clarissa Dolphin, who spoke yesterday, and she's going to be speaking on the meaning of the elusive quincunx in VA. And then finally, from 3:45 to 5, we'll have David again, and he's going to be taking us through a vibrational astrology and interactive experience, which I'm sure will be very exciting, because we'll get David in his spontaneous way. And when David starts going in that spontaneous way, it gets exceptionally creative. And for me, this is when David's genius just totally oozes through. So that should be a very exciting time. Tomorrow, we're going to be having a meeting as well, and it's going to be from 9:30 till 12, I guess. We're going to have, or 9:30, maybe not quite till 12. It'll probably be a little before that, but it'll be a open question time, and David will be there to be answering any questions people might have tomorrow. So that's what we'll be looking at right now. So again, any questions, you can always get a hold of Faye. She's there, or just ask on the chat site here, and we'll make sure you can get an answer. All right. So we'll bring Gisele Terry out, and again, she's an astrologer and a licensed marriage and family therapist in California. She's been working as an astrological consultant for over 30 years with a clientele in both the US and in Europe. Since 1974, Gisele has published articles in astrological journals, including the CAO, Times, and the Astro-Psychology newsletter, and has written columns for 3 newspapers in LA. Gisele is the co-director of the Counseling Skills Training Program for ESAR, and she has designed the Counseling Skills Program for the Avalon School of Astrology in Gainesville, Florida, which I took and was very good. The Academy of Astro-Psychology in San Rafael, California, is also where she has done this. She's a board member and president of ESAR, and has served on the board of the Organization of Professional Astrology. As a psychotherapist, Gisele has been in private practice since 1992 and specializes in the treatment of depression, anxiety, and trauma. And since 2002, she has been certified by the American Association for Marriage and Family Therapy as a clinical supervisor, and supervises new trainees and interns in the field of marriage and family therapy at the Southern California Counseling Center in LA. So everybody, please welcome Gisele Terry.
Thank you. Thank you, Christopher, for that lovely introduction, and welcome everyone. Welcome back to Astrological Markers for Mental and Emotional Illness. And as Christopher said, this is part 2 of research in vibrational astrology that focuses on bipolar disorder. and David and I collaborated on this presentation. By the way, I will have more time, I believe, at the end of this presentation for questions that you may not have had a chance to ask yesterday, and for questions that you probably will have today as well. So based on all the previous exploratory and case analysis research that I showed you yesterday, that I did in 2018 and 2019, David and I created astrosignatures for the bipolar group. We shuffled randomized data to create control groups of 912 charts, the same number of charts that exist in our 912 bipolar group. And then finally, we did all kinds of tests. We p-tested, we t-tested, we did all tests in order to find out whether we can arrive at statistical significance. So this is the third phase of research. This is the model building phase that we're in right now. And the purpose of this lecture today is I'm going to explain the process that David and I used to arrive at the astrosignatures for the Gauquelin database of 912 people with bipolar disorder. I'm going to show you and describe the astrosignatures that depict the different symptoms and mood states that are associated with bipolar disorder. I'll describe the results of the final big astrosignature, where we combined all subsignatures, and this is now the model that we can use for hypothesis testing. And then finally, I will propose future research that would be needed to replicate our results and thereby validate the model that we created. Okay, so now here are the steps that David and I took to create the astrosignatures that you're about to see. From all the exploratory research and the case analyses in 2018-19 that you saw yesterday, as well as from my clinical experience, I created astrosignatures that represent different mood states and combinations of mood states associated with episodes of bipolar disorder. Now I'm just going to stop for a minute. I'm going to stop for a minute because some of you might not know what an astrosignature is. You know, what is an astrosignature? An astrosignature is a set, it's a list, as you will see, of planetary combinations that describe certain features that you want to research. The formulas can be very, very detailed, but they are also very consistent. The Sirius astrosignature feature measures conjunctions and oppositions. Okay, now let's go back. Oh, by the way, okay, I just wanted you to visually be able to see what is an astrosignature. I'm going to come back to this very astrosignature, but for right now, you can see what it is, just what it looks like. Okay. So now let me go back to the steps that we took. So I created the initial astrosignatures that represent different mood states, and then David took my original signatures, he fine-tuned them and created 7 astrosignatures. 6 represent discrete features and mood states that are associated with bipolar disorder, and the 7th combines all of them. And then we tested and we tested and we tested for the overall score of each of the 6 subsignatures using the Gauquelin bipolar group. It's called manic depression in the database. And then we created 6 individual control groups within the Sirius program. These are very, very tough control groups. They're shuffled 1,000 times to randomize the data, and we tested their scores against the scores of the 6 subsignatures for the Gauquelin group. And finally, we just made one comprehensive 7th astrosignature combining all 6. We tested its strength. We created a control group for this comprehensive astrosignature. And then finally compared the results of the control group with the results that we obtained from the Gauquelin group. And here is just a view of the 7 signatures. We're going to go into them in detail, but I just want you to see how they're divided into different kinds of mood states with a lead planet for each of the subsignatures in a specific vibration. The last subsignature is Leo. I'm going to talk to you later when we get there. But I wanted to also just highlight that Leo in vibrational astrology, the meaning that we associate is the sense of I am. I am a person. I am a person who can grow and develop and can help other people grow and develop. But the meaning of Leo in the context of bipolar disorder is all the way down the low end of the continuum, where it is not about an I am. It's about a disorganization in the sense of self. It's a disturbance in the sense of I am. And we'll see this as we go further along. But I wanted to explain this because you might have caught right away sense of self and what does that mean? More coming. Okay, I'm going to show you exactly what we did. First, I went into the astrosignature section of the Sirius 3 research program, and there it is highlighted in green. Then this is the panel that comes up. Now, I'm on my in my program, as you see, my category 1, as you remember from yesterday, though that's the 912 group, the bipolar disorder group. And then as you can see on my main screen, not in an orderly way, but you can see underlined in green that I have those 7 astro signatures. That's all I wanted you to see, so you can see visually what it looks like. Okay, now let's go into the individual astro signatures and what they represent. Now we're teasing out. As you remember, when I showed you all the symptoms for depression and mania, it was a long list of which you need a certain number of symptoms in order to make the diagnosis. Here, what we're doing is we're teasing out certain symptoms, certain qualities. And the first astro signature is a Saturn-based signature in the 7th vibration, representing depression. And the exact signature in the Saturn 7 vibration is Saturn in 7, 14, 21, 28, 42, 49. Those are the vibrations. And you can see they're octaves higher, 1 octave higher than the previous, to the Sun, Moon, Mars, Uranus, and Neptune. That's what it looks like. You can see bipolar depression, 7 vibe Saturn. And if you look down, you will see that Saturn, and there are always 2 planets. You are working with 2 planets in a particular vibration with a specific orb allowance. And again, the program works with conjunctions and oppositions and with a particular strength. And I'm going to tell you right now, as you look at all of these astro signatures, I varied nothing in the orb allowance or the strength. And there are a few reasons for this. First of all, I do not know how to assign a specific symptom with a higher level of strength than the other. I really don't know how to say that someone's hopelessness is more significant than someone's suicidal ideation. I don't know how to weigh that, right? The other is that I don't want any more variability. The variability is in the signatures themselves, not in the orb allowance and the strengths for right now. So that's why you see that consistency. And you will see that each section jumps up another octave higher on the 7th vibration. Now, Do you remember the raw data from yesterday? Okay, I'm showing you the real raw data. And because so I can show you that this didn't just, I mean, there's intuition actually in this, but there's intuition based on all of this previous work. So you can see right on the top tier, Moon, Saturn, and you can see how I put 7. I listed all the harmonics. This is me, say I'm going to figure it all out. That 7 is right there with Moon, Saturn. 7, and then 7 is right there with Mars, Saturn. 7 is right there with Saturn, Uranus. So this is what I want you to see, that this is all drawn from my research. And then here's something interesting, because I told you I looked at every dyad. Look on the very bottom here. I thought, well, Sun Saturn actually did come out strong in 7. So you can see how all my notations are right here in different tiers, and then I happen to write down Sun Saturn strong in 7. Just so you can see this is coming from somewhere. And here again is a good illustration from my original exploratory research, where you can see how I looked at Saturn Neptune, and look how it jumps the octaves of 7. 7, 14, 21, 42. So the way the consistency has to work is that once you pick a main vibration for a certain astrosignature, you want to go up in the octaves and keep it very consistent that way, because that's actually how it works. Okay, so now let's test the strength of our first astrosignature. That's the first thing we want to do. We come up with a signature, and then the program itself will take it and say, what's the score? And the score of our first astro signature is 8.42, 8.41, etc. Now, how are we going to create a control group? Here's how we do it. Creating a control group in Sirius, there's a feature that allows you to create a control group, which was used for all the 7 astro signatures. And it's a feature that mixes up all the data. It mixes up the dates, the times, the places. And so, for example, this is just a visual of how it might mix up data. Let's say in our bipolar group, we have Joe, born June 1st, 1983, 5 p.m., Chicago. Jim, May 9, 1950, 8 p.m., Los Angeles. Mary, December 4, 1943, 4 a.m., London. And then the control group is going to take all of this, and it's just going to reassign it, reshuffle it. Instead of June 1st, we're going to go with a May 1st. Instead of 1983, we'll use the 1943. I think you can see if you look at it for yourself. It's just mixing it all up. Now imagine for 912 individuals how much shuffling up it's going to require to get a really, really sophisticated level of data mixing. And that's why it's shuffled 1,000 times. So we come up with 912 charts for the control group. These are not people, these are charts that we are going to compare the strength of our bipolar group signatures to the strength of a control group. Let's see how we do. Taking the very same astro signature that scored 8.42 for our bipolar group, we are now using that signature on a control group. You can see on the top the circle in green, Gauquelin Manic Dependent Depression Control Group. This happens to be David's screen, so that's how it reads. And what is the score? The score is 7.67. Okay, we have two different scores. Now, we are going to do a t-test. The t-test is going to determine what the probability is of statistical significance. What are we going to get? Are we going to get a real statistical significance? And absolutely we do. On the left side is our Gauquelin group. This is what the t-test panel looks like. On the right side is our Gauquelin group. The most important thing that I want you to see, if you don't look at anything, the most important thing is what's inside that green circle that says statistically significant at the 0.02 level. And what does that mean? That means that there's a 98% probability that that astro signature, that Saturn in 7 vibe astro signature, is not the result of just some kind of fluke. Okay, right away, we're getting something. Now, I'm going to stop for a moment for those of you who might want to know a little bit about statistics. Again, if you're not interested or you can't get it, please do not worry because you're going to see all the results just leap out as we go along and you're not going to need to understand every single little thing. However, let me explain. Statistical significance means a result that's not likely due to chance. For example, is there any significant difference between the scores of our Saturn vibe in our bipolar group and those of a control group when we apply the very same astro signature? And the t-tests are actually going to measure the difference between the score of our bipolar signature and the score of a control group to see whether there is a significant difference between the two, whether there is what's called statistical significance. And then the p-values are probability scores. Now, the language of statistics is probability. That's the language. It's probability, and it's called a p-value. And the p-value shows the value of the statistical significance of your signature. So what's the probability value of our Saturn in 7 vibe? It's 0.2. Then 0.2 says that there's a 98% probability that our result is right, that it didn't just happen by chance. And there's only a 2% probability that our signature is wrong. I find what's very interesting in my own exploration is that 0.02 is really good. Many fields of science, biology, clinical trials, psychology, use 0.05 for statistical significance. And actually 0.05 is higher than 0.02. It's larger than our result, and it's the cutoff for determining statistical significance. So for us to get anything below 0.05 means, oh wow, okay, that's really good. Even if we get 0.05, we are good. Now, t-values are a little bit more difficult to understand, but believe me, you won't even need to understand it when something jumps out at a t-value that I need to show you. T-values are measurements of the differences between the average scores of two groups that are actually plotted on a bell curve, and you're basing what's called an overall distribution. You're basing it on how far apart they are from the mean or average of the signature we're measuring. So if you're looking at a bell curve, it's how far does it go out? If everything is clustered in the middle, well, you're not likely to get a real high standard of deviation. But when you go out, 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 out on a bell curve like that, then you're getting into standards of deviation that show that your t-value is very significant. And if you actually get up to a t-value that's 5, it's called 5 sigma. It is very rare. And it means that there's only one chance in 3.5 million that you are wrong. And when you get to this level, you've pretty much blown even the meaning of probability, out of the realm of what we're doing. Okay, I just thought you might be interested in that. Well, let's go on to our second astro signature. We're still in the depression group of symptoms. We're just measuring the depression symptoms differently. We're measuring it through the 8 vibration, which we know represents basic challenges and drives. The 7 vibration, the earlier signature, has to do with the internal world. 7 is very internal, very introspective. It is very psychological. But the 8 vibe, we can say psychological too. They all are. It's just that 7 is very internal. 8 represents basic challenges in life. And here is the exact signature. It's Saturn in 8 vibration to Moon, Mercury, and Mars. Let's take a look at it. There it is. So it's those 3 lines. 2 planets, as I said, same orb allowance for the conjunction and opposition, same strength. Moon Saturn, Mercury Saturn, Mars Saturn. May I remind you that this is not just pulled up out of nowhere, right? Let's go back to that raw data and let's take a look. My second tier, I had already put Mercury, Saturn, and look, I crossed out all other vibrations and I had that 8 there because that for me is what was standing out. Look at Mars, Saturn. You can see 8 is already there as well. So when we're looking at these astro signatures, we're basing it on all the exploratory research that preceded this. So now let's test it out. Let's look at our bipolar group in the Gauquelin database. It's called Manic Depression. And what is its strength? That Saturn 8 vibe group tests at the score of 0.85. Okay, now let's create a control group. Again, shuffled 1,000 times. We're really gonna mix it all up. And here is the score if we have a control group, 912 charts. The score is 0.61 if we apply the very same astro signature, the Saturn in 8.5, to these 912 charts. Is there statistical significance? Yes, there is statistical significance. You see in that circle, that green circle in the middle of the page, statistically significant at the 0.05 level. And remember, I told you that is the cutoff level for probability. And what does it mean? It means that there is a 95% probability that our results are not due to some kind of random fluke, or a 5% chance that we're wrong. Now what I'm going to do is show you something that I think is very important for you to understand. And this is combining the sub-signatures. We're combining, actually what we're doing is we're putting together a range of symptoms that these subgroups actually divide up. Because if you have a Saturn in 7 vibe, you're talking about certain qualities of depression. If you have a Saturn in 8 vibe, you're talking about other qualities of depression. And as you recall, we had a pretty long list. When you put them together, you're covering the full range of symptoms, as many as we can describe in vibrational astrology, and thereby covering the criteria that's necessary in order to make a diagnosis of a bipolar depression. Let's combine the two. What are we going to get? Oh, yes. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. This is what I mean. Statistically significant at the 0.01. Okay, what does 0.01 mean? You might remember from David's lecture yesterday. 0.01 significance. So this is against a control group, mixed up 1,000 times. What we're coming up with our bipolar group is that there's a 99% chance, probability, using the right language, that our result is not due to chance. So this is quite
Gisele,
high.
Gisele,
Yes,
can I add a small point? I just want to,
absolutely.
okay, I just want to make sure this is clear to everyone. What Gisele did here is combine the first two astro signatures, the two astro signatures indicating depression. By combining them together, we expect the formula will work better, and it does. Things don't always come out logically. So when you get the result that makes sense, we get very excited. So by using the 7 vibe Saturn plus the 8 vibe Saturn, our probability goes all the way down to 0.01. It's hard to explain how exciting this is when you're doing the research, because it's confirming that both astrosignatures work, and when you put them together to build a larger one, it works even better. Okay, I hope that
They can't hear. They can't hear anymore. The sound is gone.
Oh, David, could you repeat? Did they hear any of that?
No.
Okay, so what David is saying is that this is where it gets very exciting for us, because we can't always explain how this happens. That when you put two astrosignatures together, the probability goes down. And what I mean by down actually means up in terms of the probability that we're right. It goes down to 0.01, meaning 99% of our result is not due to chance. So that's what David is saying. And also, uh, here is the beginning of what I was trying to tell you yesterday when I said I was all over the map emotionally, because we're getting something that we didn't know at all that there was a chance that we would get this kind of a result. So, whoa, okay. Now, let's continue. David, by the way, please come in again if there's something more you want to add. I think I lowered the volume because it's so strong in my ears, but I won't do that when you speak. I'll bear it, and that way I think you'll come across clearer. Apologies. Okay.
We can hear you loud and clear. We can
Okay.
hear you loud and
Okay. Okay, now let's go on to the range of manic episodes and the manic symptoms. And again, we're teasing out different kinds of symptoms associated with mania. And in this particular astrosignature, we're particularly interested in Uranus in the 11th vibration, because we believe that Uranus in the 11th vibration is going to represent manic or hypomanic hyperactivity and impulsivity. So the next slide is going to show Uranus in 11 vibe. And here's the exact formula. It's Uranus leading the whole host of dyads. Uranus in 11, 22, 33, 44, 66, 77, 88, 99, and 110 to Jupiter. And then also Uranus in 11, 22, 33, 44 to Mercury and Mars. And again, I want to remind you of something. Do you remember way back in my initial exploratory research when I looked at Jupiter, Uranus, that represents in vibrational astrology excitability, enthusiasm. It represents the high. Here we go. Look at that. 11, 22, 33, 44, 55, 66, 88, 99. So do you see why when we're constructing an astro signature, you don't just start with the base. You go with the multiples of that base vibration so that you're including the panorama of 11 multiplied by other numerical values. And here is the astro signature. You can see Jupiter, Uranus in 11, 22, 33, 44, 66, 77, 88, 99, 110. And then Mercury, Uranus, and Mars, Uranus in 11, 22, 33, 44, 11, 22, 33, 44. That is the signature. So now you already know the procedure. You know we're going to test the strength of this against a control group, and then we're going to t-test it to see, are we going to come up with any statistical significance? Oh, yep, we made it. 0.05 significance. And again, when you get 0.05, it means there's a 95% probability that we're right. 95% probability that our results didn't just happen by some random chance. There's only a 5% chance that we're wrong in the language of probability. Okay, let's go on to another kind of symptom, a different set of symptoms for hypomania or mania. And these are the symptoms that govern the kind of self-inflation and grandiosity that can be associated with mania. You may recall the long list of symptoms, of which you need 3 to make the diagnosis of mania. So the next slide shows Jupiter in 11, and then Jupiter in 8, 16, 32, and 64 to Mercury, Mars, and Neptune. You know, I just wanted to stop for 1 minute because I don't know if all of you knew what 11 meant in the previous slide. 11 is the vibration of restlessness, moving, change. So when we're looking at hyperactivity, impulsivity, we're looking at an 11 vibe because it's so closely with Uranus, represents a kind of disorganized level of hyperactivity and destabilizing behaviors. Okay, I just forgot to say that. Here in 8, we're always working with basic challenges and drives in life. We're looking at Jupiter in all these 8 octaves to Mercury, Mars, and Neptune. And there is the astro signature. You see it, it's Sun, Jupiter, Mercury, Jupiter, Mars, Jupiter, Jupiter, Neptune in 8, and then that same combination will repeat in 16, 32, and 64. And by now you understand the consistency that we need to have in going up octaves to catch the full family, the full range of the 8 vibration. And also now you know we tested the strength of this against the strength of a random control group shuffled 1,000 times, and what is going to be our level of statistical significance. Oh, okay. It's not statistically significant at the 0.05 level. So, okay, back up. Let me talk a minute. First of all, I have to say that you see how this is where I might take my deep dive down. This is what I meant, up and down, up and down. I was like, what? Okay. And the other thing is, why is 0.5 significant in other combinations when we t-tested, and it's not significant here. And the reason is the t-value. If you can see the t-value, one level up, it's 1.67. It's too low. It's too low. It means there's not enough what we call standard of deviation. The distribution of data isn't spread out enough. It's all too concentrated in the middle, what we call the average. It doesn't spread out enough. Okay, this is where David really helped me. He said, Gisele, come on, just keep going. This is what it means to do the tough research. I said, okay. Let's go on. Let's look at a different kind of a symptomology for mania or hypomania. Now let's look at Jupiter in 13 vibe. And why would we do that? We know that the 8 vibe has to do with basic drives and challenges, but the 13 vibe has to do with being exceptional. I can go beyond the norm. I can really stand out and be special. So it's a slightly different quality, because when you meet people who are in a manic phase, they don't all look alike. They have different qualities of these kinds of symptoms. In a 13 vibe, you're going to get someone who's really going to tell you how incredible they are, or they actually are going to create the next symphony that they compose in one night, that they stay up all night and compose. So next slide shows Jupiter in 13. It's Jupiter 13, 26, 39, 52 to the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. And let's see what it looks like. Whoa, I forgot. I wanted to just show you how in one of our charts in my case analysis, we're looking at Demi Lovato, and we're looking at how strong 13 was in her vibrational chart. It's 78th, but it's 13 times 6. Okay, here it is. It's a longer formula. I think I got it all in. We got the whole formula in to this screen, and there you can see it. You can see the 13, 26, 39, 52. And then you can see it repeated for each set of dyads all the way up. And then we are going to do what? We're going to do the strength. We could use a control group, test its strength, and then we're going to compare it. Okay, are we going to now get some statistical significance? No, we didn't. Okay. Oh my gosh, call David. David, I don't know what's happening. David said, Gisele, wait, this is hard, but you have to go with the facts. And we're going with the facts. This particular isolated symptom is not scoring statistically significant at the 0.05 level. Again, that t-value is too low. It's too condensed. It means that on a bell curve, you've got everything too jammed together. Nothing is spreading apart enough. So it doesn't register as statistically significant. So I thought, okay, but now what happens if we do exactly what David was talking about? What if we combine both Jupiter groups? Now, in my rationale, the reason for combining both Jupiter groups is that we're covering more of the symptomology for the mania. When you looked at that long list, you didn't see one symptom that was required. You saw that there were 3 symptoms that were required to make the diagnosis, so that by combining groups, we're covering more of the range of symptomology that people are likely to have. That's my rationale. Let's see. Yes, yes. By combining the two, we're getting the real zero point zero 0.05 significance. The probability goes up, and you can see that t-value is 2.29. So that's what I mean by that t-value means that now the bell curve is starting to spread out a little bit more, and we're getting values over here, not just right dead center. So there's a 95% probability now that our results are not due to a random fluke. It logically makes sense because people who have mania don't just have one form of self-inflation or grandiosity. There are all kinds of ways that this looks. And now, what if we combined all three signatures of mania? Because then actually it's like combining all the symptoms of, at least it's combining signatures where we could get the three symptoms that we would be required in order to make the diagnosis. Let's do it all. Okay. See, symptoms of mania or hypomania, a minimum of 3 are required. You have to have 3, not just self-inflation or grandiosity. You need hyperactivity, this rapid talking, erasing thoughts, excessive involvement with high-risk activity. You can have high-risk activity that incurs all kinds of negative results. You can have psychotic features. And, in the self-inflation grandiosity component, you can have a self-esteem that's inflated internally. You can have grandiosity where you get in front of a group of people and talk their ears off about how wonderful your latest discovery is that you stayed up all night and put together, or you actually could have composed the next great symphony. So there are variations, and this is why combining everything together is going to reach the scope of what we need. And there it is. If we combine everything, all these subsignatures into one, we are covering the range of symptomology. And what do we get? 0.01 significance. 0.01. That's 99% of our result when we combine everything that we've come up with that represents mania or hypomania. There's a 99% result that our result is not just due to some kind of random fluke. Okay, yeah. Okay, so now where I felt like, okay, everything David told me makes sense. I need to just go with this and not get all twisted up, not get overly invested. And again, here are those symptoms of mania that I just showed you. And so you can have any number of these. One person can have these 3, another person can have those 3, another person can have the 3 on top, the 3 on bottom, and when you mix them all together, you get that 99% probability that those 3 signatures combined are accurate. Now, let's go on to the very last subsignature. We call it the Leo signature. And as I explained earlier, when we looked, actually David looked at signs. Ironically, Leo was the sign that came up with most predominance for the bipolar group, and particularly Leo in the 7th vibration. And here on that continuum of meaning, Leo here doesn't mean I know myself, I'm here. Now, this is a Leo that says, all the way down on the other end, this is a Leo that says, am I here? Is there a cohesive sense of self in me? Who am I? I have difficulty experiencing a sense of cohesion internally so that I can move forward in my life. And there it is. There's the formula: Sun in Leo, Moon in Leo, Sun in Leo in the 7th, harmonic, Moon in Leo in the seventh harmonic, the harmonic of things that are very interior, very internalized and introspective. We did a control group, same thing as before, shuffled 1,000 times. Are we going to get significance? No, no, we don't. It is not statistically significant at the 0.05 level. Again, why? Because look at that t-value, it's only 0.42. So here's the paradoxical feature of doing the research. You can look at the Leo sign in the body of the database and see that it actually is the sign that comes up the strongest in the seventh vibration. And yet when we put it into the signature and measure it, we don't come up with a high enough level of significance. Why do you see 0.42 t-value? It's just not strong enough. Okay, but now you know what I'm doing. Now you understand. And by the way, this is not a behavioral symptom. There's no way that this is going to manifest as reckless activity, racing thoughts. This is the impact of the illness on a sense of self. The way you would know about this is through working with someone. And so if I'm working with someone in psychotherapy, I'm going to know through talking to them that they have a very fragile sense of self. So, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm now going to put it all together. I'm going to put it all together because I want to know if you cover all the range of all the symptoms that we can symbolize in our vibrational astrology of depression and mania. Are we really going to come up with something? This is the final one. This is a big one. Okay, Astro Signature 7 is all the previous 6 signatures combined. And here is the score. And this is going to remain the score throughout the rest of this presentation because it's the score. If we take our bipolar, full bipolar signature and we do a control group, this is the score, 50.2. This is the score if when we took a control group. Now, actually, I did several control groups. You'll see in a minute. And if we randomize the data by shuffling 1,000 times, we run it up against the same grand astro signature. Okay, what's the final verdict? Wow, the final verdict is a 0.001 significance, meaning when you put all of this together, there is only 1 in 1,000 probability of finding this result just by chance. This is what we are looking for, and this is tough to find when you're working with control groups. And I do have a notation on the bottom because I t-tested this. I ran control groups a few times and I ran it 3 times. There was a result that came out 0.01. Now, if we got 0.01, would that be good? Oh, that would be so good. That would mean that 99% chance that our result is not due to a random fluke. But 2 times it came out 0.001, meaning there's only 1 in 1,000 probability that we just found this by chance alone. This is where David and I are going. Okay. This is actually, if I want to say, have we found something? This is it. Anything more that follows is just me wanting to throw the dice. I want to throw the dice. I'm gambling now. I'm in Las Vegas. I just want to see what's going to happen. If now I take the same bipolar signature, the full signature, and instead of running it up against those tough control groups that we create within the Sirius 3 program, I'm going to test it against groups that are already established in the database in Sirius 3. I'm even going to look at other mental illness that the Gauquelin data has put together. And the first one I'm going to look at is the group that's defined as alcoholics. And the reason I want to do that is because there are statistics that show that 49% of men who are bipolar also have alcohol abuse or dependence. And 29% of people who are diagnosed, 29% of women who are diagnosed with bipolar also have a comorbid diagnosis of alcohol abuse or dependency. So I know we're running up our bipolar group against, and it's going to be a large group that probably already has people who have been diagnosed with bipolar. Will we hold up? And here we're going to go for it. We're just going to start rolling the dice. I'm going to say some prayers and say, please, I hope. We don't know. We'll see. Compared almost 2,000 alcoholics to our 912 bipolar patients, the score of the alcoholics using the same big astro signature is 46.6. Is there statistical significance? Yes. And it is again coming out at the 0.001 significance, meaning against almost 2,000 alcoholics, there's only 1 in 1,000 probability that we are wrong. That this is happening just by some kind of random fluke. Okay, let me continue. I'm going to continue using the different subcategories in the in the Gauquelin database that looked at different kinds of mental illness. And when I compared it to over 1,000 people with psychotic disorder, again, 0.001 significance is only 1 in 1,000 probability that our bipolar signature could occur by chance. Now, this, again, I do have to remind you, running up an astro signature against a control group that we create within the Sirius software is much harder than using groups. But I feel that because these groups already have a propensity towards some of the symptoms of bipolar, that's why I want to know, are they going to hold up? Because some people with mania have psychosis. Okay, it held up at the 0.001 significance. Let's keep going. Now we're looking at schizophrenia. Someone asked me about schizophrenia yesterday. Is it the same or similar? No. Look at the size of this group. 1,200 people diagnosed with schizophrenia. If we t-test it with our bipolar signature using our bipolar group, we are again getting 0.001 significance. It's again that probability in 1 in 1,000 that we are wrong. These had a point, and I don't need to make the point. The point is right there, right? That these are the, oh, I know what I wanted to say. I ran these multiple times. This isn't just run once. I ran these with a few control groups consistently with all of these groups that you're seeing now. These are the numbers that come up. Let's go on. Okay, now I am going to run it up against what's called the Dr. Fink data study. This is a very famous study, and David knows about it. I think he may have even worked with Dr. Fink. And this was done at a university, and the purpose was to see whether selected students with high degrees of introversion and extroversion. That test was to determine whether Saturn would score high for introversion and Jupiter would score high for extroversion. And their number of charts, the number of students, were 944. So it's a very similar number to our 912, where we are looking at mania and depression, and they were looking at introversion, extroversion. What are the difference in scores? Again, you know our score is 50.1, and their score is 44.89. Are we going to get statistical significance? Can you read that number? That number is 0.0000003. This is a 5 sigma. Do you see that t-value, 5.34? This is a blowout, total blowout. We have just blown the very meaning of probability apart. Because what 5 sigma means, that 0.0000003, means that the standard of deviation is above 5, and it means that there is only one chance in 3.5 million that our result is due to chance alone. 1 in 3.5 million. And that's why, I mean, it's like at that point, I mean, what does probability mean? So this is where, when I said I was like, oh, whoa, you know, this is where I'm going way, way, way up. Okay, that's it. Now I'm really rolling the dice. I'm saying, listen, I'm just going for it. Let's compare our 912 bipolar group to over 6,000 actors and entertainers in the database. And it's like David and Goliath. Are we going to come up with something? Look at what we come up with. 0.0000035 sigma. One chance in 3.5 million that when we compare our group to over 6,000 actors and entertainers, we're coming up with, excuse me, a score that's like beyond, beyond, you know, rational capacity. And unfortunately, I think we all know actors and entertainers often, unfortunately, have bipolar disorder. Okay, I'm going to go for it. This is my last game that I'm playing. The last roll of the dice. I thought I'm going for it. I'm going for the full database. I said my prayers, my palms were sweating. I said, let's put up 912 bipolar patients against 86,000 famous people in the database. Are we going to come up with something? Again, our score is 50.18. The score for the entire famous people database, and believe me, I ran this more than once, is 45.8. Are we going to get something? Okay. Oh my God. Can you read this? 0.0000001 significance. 6 sigma. There is only one chance in 1/2 billion that our formula is wrong. 6 sigma corresponds to a probability value of 1/2 billion. This means that there is less than one chance in half a billion that we're wrong when we compare our data to over 85,000 people in the entire database. And at this point, it's like a singularity in astrophysics, where when you get close to a black hole, time and space have no meaning. Well, probability has no meaning here. The only people that work with 6 sigma are particle physicists. They require this. But for our purposes, it's like it ceases to exist. Oh, wait, hold it. Okay. I just realized something. You know what? We're really not there yet. I know. I know. So this was like, David, please help me here. We're really, how could we get 6 sigma, but we're really not there. And I'll tell you why. Many of the ideas and models used in psychology, medicine, and education are not validated by replications. And only the hypothesis test is going to give us the results we ultimately need. So this is very sobering. It was very exciting, and now this is sobering. It's sobering. And let me also show you this. There's a caveat on 5 sigma and 6 sigma. This is from a science website, that 5 sigma isn't enough to be super sure, and not even 6 sigma. And there's a case in point in 2011, an experiment from the particle accelerator CERN, and the experiment was called OPERA. It's very famous, and it found that nearly massive neutrinos rather, travel faster than light, and the claim was it bore a 6 sigma confidence. And it was proven wrong, because the follow-up independent experiments failed to come up with the same level of confidence, because actually it violated Einstein's principle of relativity. And then the OPERA scientists actually found where that their experiment was faulty. So you see, even these brilliant particle physicists who work with 6 sigma can make mistakes. Okay, so we as astrologers, we have to know this was incredible what we came up with, but we're not there yet. We have to do hypothesis testing. That is what's next. The hypothesis test means that we have to collect more data with bipolar patients who have been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, have AA data. We have to have more control groups, and then we have to perform more statistical tests. And the hypothesis test is appropriate when you have a model and you feel confident that you know what's involved, which we do. We do have a model. It gives, the hypothesis test is going to give the most convincing indications that something is true. And it is the last step of everything. And this is going to be where we play the hallelujah chorus. This is the gold standard that we're looking for. Okay, what can we say we found? We found a signature that represents bipolar disorder with both mood poles. We never knew when we started this that statistical research would find this, but in vibrational astrology, it does. There are strong withdrawal, introversion planetary configurations, meaning actually even one chart can have configurations that represent mania and configurations that represent depression, but they do not integrate. And now, finally, we do have a model that we can work with in further hypothesis testing. Okay, you have questions? Believe me, David and I have questions too. We don't know yet whether what we found is true for our group alone or whether it will generalize to other groups with bipolar disorder, and only the hypothesis test is going to show us this. We don't know yet what in our astrological signatures or big signature determines that someone has bipolar, or rather better, a predisposition to bipolar. Might the same signature for one person be dysfunctional and for another not so? If a certain number of patterns are needed in order to make a diagnosis, how many of these vibrational combinations in our final overall signature would someone need to predispose them to bipolar disorder? We don't know yet. And then finally, would the chart, the vibrational chart, actually show predisposition, which I think probably it's predisposition for bipolar disorder, just like genetic markers show predisposition. And it's the additional stressors and some real life triggers that activate episodes. What would the value of a replication mean when we do hypothesis tests? It would mean that we do have a very high level of evidence of a successful outcome in statistical research in astrology. Possibly will have predictive value. The causes of bipolar right now are considered to be multifactorial, but we may be able to add to the capacity to diagnose and predict the disorder. Successful replications could be very exciting for people in all kinds of fields of interest. And David tells me that his academic colleagues are ready. They're ready to go to promote astrology at a university level if we can get successful hypothesis tests. And lastly, what is the likelihood of replication with hypothesis tests? Scientific research at the level of hypothesis testing involves large teams of people with resources many thousands of times greater than what we have. We took our research that we did in Sirius all the way to the capacity, the full capacity that we could within astrology. Nevertheless, we've made huge progress. And David and I couldn't have done this alone because we had to put together, our own expertise. And now we have to gather a large group of professionals from other areas of expertise to complete the final hypothesis testing phase. But because of the high level of significance in our research, because we hit that 5 sigma and 6 sigma, if there are no errors in our concepts and calculations, there is a likelihood that our signature will prove true in other databases as well. Thank you so much for attending. And if we have time, I hope we do, for a few questions.
Superb again.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow. That is amazing. Just the significance of this study and what it can mean for astrology and just for people's health as well is is amazing and unreal. Wow. Very good presentation.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent. All right, Gisele, we do have a few questions here, if you have a minute.
I do.
All right. Linda Berry asked, she was wondering why you left out the 5th and the 35th vibration for the Saturn signature.
Probably because the 5th and 35th signature, 5th and 35th vibration are probably not um, symbolic of depression because we're talking about the creative flow. It doesn't mean that we know that bipolar people have creative flow, and they never very well may have it in 7. But if I go back to my original preliminary research, 5 and 35 didn't jump up that high. Uh, who's to say? Maybe we, in all of this, all your questions are great. We don't know. Maybe it should be added. But for me, Moon Saturn, Mercury Saturn, Mars Saturn, Uranus, Saturn Uranus, Saturn Neptune, these are the depressive symptoms. Okay, I don't know if that's a complete answer.
Well, yeah, that's an answer, and that's all we need.
I could add something to that. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Just briefly, what Gisele found is extreme tendency of Saturn, depression, extreme mania, Uranus and Jupiter in 11 vibration. Those vibrations that are not as extreme do not appear to incline to bipolar. 35 is not as extreme as 7 times 4 or 7 times 6, because the 7 times 5 appears to lighten up the extreme introversion and separation of 7. So number one, the data did not show it, and number two, it was consistent that it's extreme introverted separation, extreme mania is what's going on. Does that make sense, Gisele?
Yes, it does. It does. Thank you.
Okay, another question was by Diane Soto, which was a really good one. I think it applies to a lot of us here. Um, Once you're sure that a client is showing that they have one of the astro signatures for mental illness and is acting out, how does a non-psychological astrologer handle this situation?
Okay. Excuse me. First of all, you don't draw any conclusions, not based on any one uh, planetary pattern, nor uh, nor acting out. Here's the reason why. Unless the acting out that you see and you're talking about is something you are observing over time, is something that the patient, that the client describes happening over time, that they have suffered with, and you see they don't sleep, they can't stop talking, they are going at 100 miles an hour for at least 2 weeks, months, sometimes, and then fall into a major depression for at least a year. Now, I'm going to say this. If you're unsure, consult a specialist. I mean, you're not, as an astrologer, going to see someone over time. If you suspect something, yes, suggest, would you like to see someone who could help you with this? And when I do my counseling skills, I'll show you how to do this. But at this point, I would recommend that you stay away from making a diagnosis. What you can say is, wow, this situation really sends you on a high. I can see how much you get excited, and I don't know if you're sometimes in a dream world that you end up finding out is not realistic, and that depresses you. You can say all of that, but you're not going to make a clinical diagnosis, and you're going to refer to a specialist if the client is amenable to it, and if you really start to see something over a period of time. I hope I've answered that helpfully.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
That sounds good. Thank you, Gisele. Wendy has a question also, and she said, since you are using the outer planets, are these results less sensitive to a slightly, let's say, inaccurate birth time?
I don't know the answer to that because we're trying to use AA data as much as possible. I mean, when we do hypothesis testing, we're only using AA data. We can't use inaccurate birth times. And with accurate birth times, those outer planets are going to play very strongly because although you're seeing two planet combinations, I'm getting some feedback. I don't know
That's
why.
David's.
Okay. Oh, sorry. If you're getting, um, when you're looking at two planetary combinations here, when we're looking at charts, we're not looking at two planetary, we're looking at all planets that are coming together to form four planet combinations. So, if you're thinking about outer planets, remember that's how it's tested in the the test feature in Sirius in the astro signature. But when you're looking at a chart, you're looking at um, a personal planet that comes in with it, and it's no less significant. Um, uh, but once you're not working with an accurate birth time, there's always a question. The
Oh,
hypothesis test is going to have to be so strict.
right. All right. And David, you wanted to add something to this?
Yes. In the 11 vibration chart, the planets are moving 11 times faster. This, in the 22, it's 22 times faster. In the 88, the planets are moving 88 times faster. So these astro signatures that Gisele developed are using very high vibrations, that entire spectrum. And Uranus is not moving slowly. It's moving fast. Everything is moving very fast. So these configurations that indicate bipolar tendency are changing rapidly throughout the day. Within a few hours, they have changed. So you have to have AA data to identify the configurations. So outer planets are not slow in these high vibrations, and the inner planets are whizzing by extremely fast. So it's not so dependent on birth time. I mean, it is dependent on having an accurate.
Okay, awesome. Another question that Linda Berry had was working with the positive meanings of these astrological signatures uh, and with the clients. Are you able then to help these people recover and get off meds, or what are you hoping to do with these, really with these astro signatures in a positive way?
The truth is, I'm not there yet because we're not at any treatment model right now. However, what Linda is asking is an excellent question. Um, right now, because bipolar disorder is so severe, the only interventions that we have are within the body of research in clinical treatment. So I do not know right now how positive interpretations of certain planetary configurations is going to help. Would it help somewhat? You know what? It would. It would. But I'm just saying that I don't know yet because all I know is what I use for the clinical treatments, which are very different from using just positive meanings. There is a way to introduce the positive, but it's a whole clinical application that I'm happy to show someone. Maybe when we do our counseling skills, we could actually combine that. We could look at the positive meanings and then see how that could be integrated with what I do in clinical treatment to resource a client. It's called resourcing a client with positive imagery.
Awesome. All right, that sounds good. Yeah, I mean, this is so this research is like just it literally is cutting edge. I mean, we're right just at the edge of it. So
Yeah.
it's a growing thing. That's the exciting part of it.
Yes.
Um, then also, Sue asks, where does Pluto come into mental illness or character disorder? She was asking.
Well, what we're seeing is it comes in combination with other planets. Um, Pluto is compulsive. Pluto is obsessive. Um, Pluto is going to make things intractable, intransigent. It's going to, uh, if you have a Moon Saturn Pluto, do you remember earlier? That's about as severe as you can get. Now, Moon Saturn is hard, but once you add that Pluto to it, you're adding something so deep, so from the past, so repetitive, compulsive, and strong that it's just going to make it much harder. Pluto itself adds a compulsivity, an obsessive quality, and a hold on something.
All right. Wonderful. Well, we want to let you go and get some rest. There's, if you look at the chat, you'll see a lot of people are really enjoyed your talk. So
Oh,
thank you so much, Gisele.
I so appreciate it. Thank you all for attending, and I'll look forward to reading your questions on the chat as soon as I can and answering more of them. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right, everybody. We'll take a break now. We'll be back at 11 a.m. on East Coast time. And Faye will be giving a talk on the minor planets and asteroids in vibrational astrology. So we'll see you in, looks like about 34 minutes. All right. Bye.
Bye.